Hi Gary, lovely to meet up with you again and do some further work on your game. Just a quick recap on the key points that we covered in this second session. First of all, great effort in regards to the changes based on session 1. Body's in a much better position at P6, sweet spot slightly out in front of the hands for reasons we discussed, and obviously as a byproduct of the drills that you've been doing. But the alignments here now, much more chest onto the ball at P6. Pelvis starting to open up, a little bit more flex going in this trail knee, right heel not popping up as much. Certainly from face on, the head, if that footage, if that particular swing was viewed from face on, we wouldn't see as much sliding, we wouldn't see the head dropping back. Accumulator 1 now is starting to release a little bit more incrementally. We're not hanging on to that, so all good at that point. We just talked about the sweet spot being a little bit out in front of the hands at P6, which again is fine. You've been hitting a lot of pulls in practice, moving towards a fade pattern overall. But we wanted to tidy up the move from P1 to P4 at the start of this session. So based on the work we did last time, better in the lower body. Right leg still straightening a little bit too much, a little bit too soon. So the right hip's getting thrust behind you this way a little bit too much. So the turn is good, but it's not on a tilted angle. So we've got pressure, if you will, going into the trail heel too fast, right leg straightening too quick, and certainly not enough accumulator 3 loading. So we talked about that first of all, and we just introduced a little bit more accumulator 3. And we can see when we do that, club stays out in front of the hands fine, and this is a sort of a slow motion drill, but you started to get this into your full swing anyway. Accumulator 1 could definitely soften a little bit more. We talked about that. Just trying to, again, a little bit more incremental loading of 1, 2 and 3 from P1 to P2.5. We can see with the right leg now, as a result of adding a little bit of 3, the right leg doesn't straighten as much. We talked about one of your checkpoints being at P2. We want to see the right leg straightening, but we don't want to see a gap between the knees. By the time we get to P3, we'd like to see the gap between the knees opening up. We can see that when we do add a little bit of accumulator 3 from P1 to P2, the shaft sits a little bit shallower, could still go shallower. But the more 3 you add, the more shallow the shaft will appear at P3. And we talked about in an ideal world, we'd like to have the shaft line pointing at the target line. But what we would allow you to have is a shaft line that's pointing somewhere between the stance and the ball to target line, ideally like you've got it here, more favouring the ball to target line. But we certainly don't want to encroach back where we used to be, which was more towards the stance line. So a little bit more accumulator 3 from P1 to P2. What we're saying here was, again, the body's going a little bit too much, a little bit too soon. So there's very little to give, and we get that lifting sensation. Doesn't look massively offensive, but there's certainly a little bit more lift there than we would want. So I'm seeing accumulator 4 at that point is loading, when really what I want with you is I want the accumulator loading sequence finished by P3, and then the accumulator's just travelling to P4. And again, we discussed the difference between the two. So here, we're trying to load the accumulators to P2.5, and then P2.5 is an act of turning, tilt and extending, turning, tilt and extending, turning, tilt and extending. Consequently, there is less lifting of the arms. The lead wrist doesn't appear to bow out quite as much, and that bowing out of the lead wrist for you is actually happening just as you start down, courtesy of the trail elbow, courtesy of the trail shoulder, having to externally rotate to help keep this club a little bit, you can't really say inside because it's outside your hands at P6, but certainly to prevent the club getting too much out in front of you, resulting in too big of a pull, potentially sort of toe strikes, heel strikes, depending on what your reaction is from P6. But certainly we don't want as much as of that move in your swing. Some players want that, you don't. So here we've got body turning, tilting and extending just a little bit too much too soon. Not as much as previously, but still a little bit too much. With a little bit of a lack of accumulator 3, resulting in a steep shaft, and then that loading of the accumulators continuing from P3 to P4. Here we have more accumulator 3 from P1 to P2, loading the accumulators fully by P3, and then propelling the accumulators, if you will, causing the accumulators to travel by extending, turning and tilting to P4. That slightly deeper position and less lifted position at P4 results in a slightly more in-line condition at P6. You can see here, sweet spot slightly out in front of the hands. Sweet spot directly in front of the hands. So a little bit directly in line with the hands, should I say. A little bit deeper at P4, a little bit shallower at P3, resulting in a little bit more in line at P6. From there, the shot cone is going to be a little bit tighter. Accumulator 1 starts to expand a little bit more through the hit. Body continuing to turn all the way through. Tilts maintained through the ball. More of a passive swing on the right, so there's not quite as much extension of the lower body, but all in all, some great work from down the line in regards to your overall sequencing. So we take a little look then about what we discussed with driver. And this was largely face on. And again, we did some sequencing work. When we looked at the image of yourself against Stenson, what we're seeing with driver is way too much axis tilt by the time we get to P6. So we can see the head translating back. Hips aren't necessarily driving forward too fast. You can see the centre of the pelvis doesn't get way out in front of you. Head drops back, courtesy of you hanging on to accumulator 1 and accumulator 2. So here we're lowering the butt of the golf club, or the shaft of the golf club, to P6, courtesy of dropping the shoulder down, which causes the head to translate back. Now we've got to get rid of everything at the last minute. Rate of closure can be high. Swing can be directed too much to the right. Lead shoulder getting really high. Lead wrist palmar flexed at P7, resulting in some bottom edge strikes as well. So what we're looking to do here is we're looking to tidy up the delivery position, looking to tidy up P6, and mainly we're looking to have a right shoulder and left shoulder that there's less of a difference between the two, resulting in less axis tilt and a little bit more of a steady release of accumulator 1, 4 and 2 up to P6. The drill for that, which is a sort of a bonus drill for you in the sense that you can work on your backswing sequencing as well whilst doing this, is to swing to P4 and stop. Hold it for 3 seconds and then start down. When you're hitting from a passive position or a static position at P4, the sequencing has to be better in order for you to make good contact. What we then started to do was add some detail to this and talk to you about the sensations you were getting, such as the right shoulder working down and around, the chest getting onto the ball. We talked in this swing about feeling like the lead shoulder instead of working up quickly in transition like we have here, so lead shoulder working up, trail shoulder working down, head dropping back, just feeling like the lead shoulder was staying down for longer. And as you did that, we saw some remarkable changes at P6. So you're holding the position, starting down, and there we see all the boxes that we need to tick in transition to some degree. We've got accumulator 1 starting to release more. Accumulator 4 is travelling further. Right shoulder and left shoulder, there is a difference courtesy of the hip slide, but it's not as dramatic, and substantially less axis tilt coming into the golf ball. As you do that, the head doesn't translate back as much. And the rate of closure doesn't have to be as high through the hip. But again, I'm not going to read too much into that last bit because it's a passive swing, and I'm going to wait to see how that one progresses over the next month or so. But your priorities lie with driver in particular from P4 to P6. We want less axis tilt. And I would say angle of attack wise, if you work on the principle of a level angle of attack being your baseline, that's going to discourage the excessive axis tilt that we see here, which is a byproduct of someone who's been advised to hit up massively on the golf ball. And you're going to start to, by leveling out the angle of attack, you don't mind 2-3 degrees up, maybe even 1-2 degrees down. But if we use level as a baseline, that's going to discourage that excessive thrust into the hips, hanging onto the accumulators, etc. A little bit less axis tilt, and away you go. A much better, more effective driver of the golf ball. Good luck with it. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop me an email or a text. Looking forward to watching this one progress. If you make as much progress between session 2 and 3 as you did between session 1 and 2, you'll be absolutely flying by the end of the season. Well done.